If I managed to do it in a year like this with my circumstance, then you can too. Don't make excuses. Stop letting people tell you what you can or can't do. You can do it if you set your mind to it. It's all about your attitude. Welcome. I'm Anila Sita. The channel is Anila Sita 101. And today I want to share with you the story of how I managed to move out. I put this up on my TikTok and it just blew up. It's only been on there for like 2 hours and there's so many people who are asking questions that I felt like I need to make a video about it and answer all the questions that I was getting on my TikTok, and also just give you a no bullshit guide to how to move out. I'm just gonna keep it 100% real with you. Everything you will need, what steps I took, what steps you can expect. And I just want to start off by saying you can totally do this, okay? I really hope that me sharing this on here right now is gonna help you in some kind of way. I have loads of notes of how I did this. Let's get straight into it. I'm gonna answer some questions that I got on my TikTok. One question was, how old was I when I did this, and was I allowed to leave, or did I just run away basically? I was 20 years old when I did it, and legally of course you can move out anytime after 18 years old. I didn't necessarily run away, but I definitely left home and it was a shock. It created a few issues between my father and I at the time, but I had to do what was right for me in the moment. So if you're in a situation where you feel like you have to get out, get the fuck out. If you're older than 18 years old, you should be able to do it. If you're 15, 16, 14, whatever the age may be, you can still get something from this, because I will tell you what to expect and how much money you will need, so you can use the time that you're still living at home to kind of save up for the day that you can leave. But don't get scared when I use the word save up, because you don't need a lot of money. That's why I think my video got so popular on TikTok, was because I specified that I moved out without a job and I moved out with very little money. So know that it's very much possible to leave home with little money. I'm gonna get all into that afterwards. Where did I stay? That was another question that came up on my TikTok. I was first living with my father at an apartment in London. My father wasn't there at the time though, he was on holiday. And I then ended up leaving to move into a room in a flat. This is how you're gonna be able to do this. I'm gonna explain some things now. If you wanna leave home, you have to understand that obviously you're gonna have to be paying rent. And rent in a city in particular, so in London, it's gonna be quite expensive if you want to leave to live in an apartment. A lot of YouTube videos I watched were talking about how they managed to move out into an apartment. That's not how I did it. I just wanted to get out as fast as I can. So this is your guide to how to leave as fast as possible. You want to find yourself a room and not an apartment, because if you find yourself a room, you're only paying rent for that room. Depending on where you live in the world, if you're in a city, 100% it's gonna have to be a room, or you're gonna have to find something outside of the city that is shareable between you and a friend. So if you have a friend that also wants to leave, you could potentially find a flat together where you split the rent, you split all the bills. But I'm gonna tell you what the great thing is about finding a room opposed to an apartment. When you're looking for a room, I found my room that I'm currently living in. I found it on an app called spareroom.co.uk or .com, I'm not sure. There are loads of different websites. In America it would be Craigslist. In the UK for me it was Spare Room, but there's loads of websites where you can look for what we call flat share, which is basically when different people are living in a flat together and you only pay for the room. Now what you want to do is you want to go on one of those sites and you want to look for a room that has a price. I'm going to tell you what kind of to look for budget wise. A price that has all bills included. So you want to make sure that you're not looking for a room that only has the rent, but it has that money that they're putting on the website is literally for all the bills. So then all you really have to pay every month is simply that amount, along with something like your phone bill and your Spotify and Netflix. If you have that, you won't be paying anything else. If you want to move into your own flat, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. You would be paying rent, you would be paying for water, gas, electricity, and phone bill, obviously Netflix, Spotify. But it's basically utilities as well, including internet, like Wi-Fi and stuff like that. The great thing about flat share, so living with different people, is that you only pay one amount and it already includes everything. Because since different people are living in a house, that money will be split, as in like the utility bills like water, electricity, gas, it will be split amongst everybody that is living in the place. Now I'm gonna tell you what to look for in terms of the price, in terms of location, because obviously I did this with very little money. I did this without a job. So I think, again, the reason why this kind of blew up on TikTok was because a lot of people are in the situation that I was in, which is why I want to share with you exactly what you need to be looking for. If you are in London, I suggest keeping your rent very low. So the lower, the better. So in London, with any city as well, you have the central part or you have the parts outside of the city. If you live in the city, it's gonna naturally be more expensive, but you pay less for commuting. So travel expenses are gonna be less if you live in the center. If you live outside of the city, then you're going to pay probably less rent, but you will pay more to travel into the city if you're working in the city. So what my advice is, you can find something central, okay? I did it, so you can too. I found something in Clapham, which is like in South London, and with a minimum wage job, which I didn't have a job yet when I moved out, but obviously you're gonna have to get a job if you want to move out because you have to pay your bills. A minimum wage job will pay you around 1,300 a month, 1,300 pounds, and this is without taxes. So that is the money that you get every month. Of that money, again, like I said, you want your rent to be as low as possible. My rent currently is 650, but when I moved out, my rent was 500. And that sounds expensive, but actually it's very cheap and you can live with that kind of rent to pay every month. So you want to find yourself a place, a room that costs around that amount, 500 a month. Then you will only have, say, maybe 40, 50 bucks max for your bills like Netflix, Spotify, phone bill. I'm gonna get more into the money thing in a second, but I just want to explain to you because there was another question that came, which is how did I pay for everything? This is where things are a little bit like, I didn't leave with zero money because naturally that wouldn't be possible unless I had a friend helping me out. So I had saved up a little bit of money from different things, like it was right after Christmas, so I had Christmas money. I had some money from when I was living with my dad, and in total that was around a little bit more than £2,000. But please don't get discouraged. You don't need that much money to actually leave home, because I didn't end up needing all of that money when I left. I only needed a little bit of it. So I'm gonna get all into how much you actually need if you're planning to move out. As I said, you will definitely need your first month's rent. So if your rent is 650, you need 650. If your rent is 500, you need 500. So you definitely need that. Now, other stuff, I'm gonna say, some landlords, you know, when you go and see a place, they will ask you, you know, if you can pay for a deposit. Sometimes you need a deposit, even if it's only a room you're paying for, because an apartment, you would also need to pay for a deposit. But with a room, sometimes you have to, but sometimes you don't. Especially if you're planning to leave right now, as in during the whole COVID situation, you're in luck because a lot of people are not requesting the deposit because they know how tricky it is with money at the moment. So I will say, if you have little money and you want to leave really fast, you will at least need your first month's rent plus your bills, obviously Spotify, Netflix, again, like those kind of things. So calculate how much it is that you're gonna need besides the rent. So 500, say 50 bucks for the extra bills that you have. And then you're gonna need maybe, again, this depends. If you think that you're gonna get a job fairly fast, then you would only need 1 month's rent depending on when you decide to leave. So in all, I would say you would need, maybe you could leave home with just £1,000, as in $1,000, depending on where you are. I'm not sure how it is everywhere else in the world. It's obviously very much, it depends, because you have to see it this way. Each week you're gonna need money for food and you're gonna need money for travel expenses if you're planning to travel. When I moved out, I didn't travel much because I was living in the city. I found a place to live in the city. Everywhere that I traveled was either walking distance, or if it was to go to a place again for like job interviews, I would take the bus then. So everything would be less expensive for me. I always thought about the money and the cheapest ways to make things work. Know that if you want to do this, you can so do it. But I will say it's not easy. Like, be sure that this is what you want to do. My motivation was that I really wanted to get out. I really wanted to leave home. And I had so much faith because I felt so horrible at times being at home. I don't want to talk shit about my family or how it was living at home, but I'm just gonna be perfectly honest. I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that I didn't have freedom, that I couldn't make the decisions I wanted to make. And that is naturally gonna be how it is if you're living with parents or family. But basically, what I want to say is if you want to get out, you can do it with very little money. You will need that money to pay for the rent. And again, depending on if they need a deposit, then you're gonna have to add the deposit money onto that. But do not get discouraged. It's not that much money. That's why I said little money, and maybe to you it might sound like a lot to need around 1,000. It might sound like a lot, but in reality, I personally think that when you take a leap of faith in life, the universe has your back. You're supported. And the thing is, until you actually take that risk, until you actually take the leap of faith, you will never really know how much you're, first of all, capable of and how much you're supported. I used to be very afraid of living on my own. I used to be very afraid of paying the bills. I never paid the bills before in my life. I never had a job before. I never worked properly before. So know that my situation, it was looking pretty bad to move out. It was very difficult, but I still managed to do it. And that's why I really wanted to share this story, so that you can see it doesn't have to be like you need this, you need that, you need this, you need that. It's very simple. Also, this is something I forgot to say actually. If you have only lived at home, then you would have never paid bills, right? So when you move into a new place, the landlord might ask you for a reference that would be a reference from a landlord before that you lived with, but obviously you never paid rent, so you wouldn't have a landlord reference. And I remember in my situation, it looks really bad, you know. You go and see a room somewhere and they ask you, okay, so what do you do for work? And we need to see a landlord reference. And in that moment I was like, well shit, I don't have either. I don't have a job yet and I don't have a landlord reference. And something like that looks really bad. So again, I'm sharing this with you to make you realize that don't listen to people saying you need so many things to move out. You don't. If I did it without a job, which was like a freaking miracle, then miracles can happen for you as well. Believe in them. And I remember in my situation what I did when she asked me that. I told her about my situation. I told her I'm not feeling comfortable at home. I really want to leave. I want to be independent. I have full belief in myself. I told her this. I was like, I'm confident that I'm going to find a job. I'm not going to let you down. I will pay my bills. So I said this to her, and that's why I will tell you as well. Be confident with it. Understand that you can do this, for Christ's sake. It is not difficult. It is difficult if you think it is. It will be hard in the sense that it will be one of the most challenging things you've ever done. But I personally am so grateful and so proud of myself that I ended up doing it. And it's been the best thing ever. Even though lockdown ended up happening this year, I still was financially supported by my work. Now I'm independent. I'm living here. I did not ever, you know, fail. I never went back home and was like, I can't do this. So know that you can do this. If you really want to do it, you totally can. And don't get discouraged if certain landlords tell you, I'm sorry, we can't do that. Keep looking. You will find somebody who understands you, somebody who wants to help you out. I went to see one place before I saw the one that I'm living in right now, and she kind of just already crossed me off the list as soon as I said I don't have a job, because that looks really bad to some landlords. But when you come there with an energy of, I know I can do this, and please, I have enough money to pay for the first month's rent, I'm gonna be okay. If you have enough money for 2 months' rent, even better. Promise the landlord that you will do what it takes in order to pay the bills, what it takes in order to just leave and move out. I ended up finding something and moving out in 3 days. From the moment I made the decision, it was 3 days until I was already out of my home. So very fast, and again, no job. Yes, I had some money saved up. That was the thing that helped me, but I will say again, you don't need to have 2,000. Even 1,000, 1,500 could be enough for your budget depending on what your bills are. That's something you have to figure out for yourself. You have to stick more to a budget, but me personally, it was so worth it. The fact that I had my freedom. I was living in a tiny ass room. This is actually not the room that I was in when I moved out. I was in one that was like that's like across the hall, but it was so small you could touch both walls with your hands like that. So it was tiny, but I felt so excited inside because I thought to myself, I left, I did it, you know, I did it, and I was so proud of myself. Again, I still am thinking about this whole story, and I just want you to know that it's totally doable. You just have to believe it, and you have to put the intention out there and allow the universe to help you and do the work, because there's only so much that we can control. Sometimes it really is outer circumstances, but what you can control is your faith, and it's your belief in yourself, and it's your attitude. And having a positive attitude is always going to be better. I have so many people that have told me in my life, you know, being positive, oh, it's just bullshit, that's not gonna work. So many people who are preying on my downfall when I left home, who were like, she's not gonna manage to do it, she's gonna come back home because she's gonna hate work, she's gonna hate the real world and how it is to pay bills. So many people were saying shit like that about me, and in the end I managed to do it, and it was all because of my attitude. So know that your attitude is something that no one can take away from you, and you will get through this. You will manage to do it if you really want to. If you have anxiety about this situation, like if you have anxiety about, you know, finding a place, meditate. That's what really helped me during that time. Every time I'd meditate in the evening, I would put on like a guided meditation on YouTube, and I'd listen to things. Even there's guided meditations for money, for moving out, loads of meditations on YouTube. So I would find one that suited my situation. I would just imagine that I was already out, and it helped me so much. In the end, I left with my suitcase and I was like, oh my god, I did this. I found a place, I paid my first month's rent, this is actually happening. And when it comes to the job, some people will tell you that you need to get a job before you can move out. I didn't do that. I managed to move out and get the job afterwards, because sometimes it needs that leap of faith for things to move faster. Because I think people search for jobs forever, and they're like, no, I'm not gonna leave home until that is worked out. But you'd be surprised that when you decide to move out, the job actually comes a lot faster than you think. So the job story is a whole new video, and if you want to see how I got a job in 1 week, I will definitely be sharing that story. But for now, this is all I wanted to share. I just want you to believe that this is possible. I want you to know that you can so do this and to not have any fear. I know it's scary when you're in it. I know it's so scary and you're like, I just really want to leave, but you don't know how. Well, I just told you how. So I really hope that what I said resonated and helped you. And trust me, if I did it, then so can you. It's already like, we're almost at the end of this year. This is the year that I decided to do it, and it was one of the most crazy years, as we all know, but I still managed to do it. So if I managed to do it in a year like this with my circumstances, then you can too. Don't make excuses. Stop letting people tell you what you can or can't do. You can do it if you set your mind to it. It's all about your attitude. So anyways, that is all my tips and tricks. I really hope that that was useful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm sending you lots of love and lots of luck.